With the 2024 NFL season winding down and just week 18 left, most teams are already thinking about the playoffs or the draft and resting starters. I figured out now is the perfect time to hand out some awards. We've got the classics like MVP, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, but stick around because I'm throwing in a few wild made-up awards I came up with that you won't see anywhere else. Let's dive right in. So first we're going to start out with the official awards, and we got MVP. Now right now it's really just a two-horse race with Josh Allen being the favorite. However, I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson. He's above him in literally everything besides just record and rushing touchdowns, and the reason why Lamar doesn't have more rushing touchdowns is because he has Derrick Henry on his team. Lamar Jackson has a 68% completion percentage to Josh Allen's 63. He has way more passing yards. He has more than a yard more per attempt, more passing touchdowns by 11, and less interceptions. His quarterback rating is 20 points higher and is the second highest season we've ever seen. And he's easily the best rushing quarterback, having over 300 more yards than Josh Allen. I don't see any reason why this is a conversation unless you're just looking at who has the best record, in which case we should just give it to Mahomes. He has 15 wins. So there really isn't an argument, in my opinion, for Josh Allen. Next up, we got Offensive Player of the Year, and yeah, this is just another two-horse race. We got Saquon and Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is winning the Triple Crown this year. Probably going to end up with in the realm of 1,700 yards. Got 16 touchdowns right now, just having a great season. However, his team's not doing very good at all, and Saquon Barkley might break the rushing record. I mean, next week he's probably going to play till he breaks it, and he only needs 100 yards, so he might have the best season we've ever seen from a running back. And that's with, he's been stopped at the 1 yard line like 15 times. You know how many touchdowns he's gotten from those? 0. They give 14 of them were to Jalen Hurts. He would have so many more touchdowns. He just has 13 right now. He'd probably have like upwards of 20 if they didn't have Jalen Hurts, who's really hurting his production in my opinion. So I'm definitely going to give this one out to Saquon Barkley. Now, Defensive Player of the Year is probably the toughest word to give out. I mean, we got 3 players with a real shot. We got Myles Garrett, 14 sacks, leading the league in pressures. We also got TJ Watt, which I don't really understand. He's going to have his worst season where he stayed healthy the whole year since his rookie year. I don't think he deserves it this season. I know at the beginning of the season he was kind of like an MVP for the Steelers, making so many plays, especially in that Falcons game. I believe the first game of the season, forced like 3 fumbles. But since then, kind of cooled off. Still a great player, but I don't think he's going to win DPOY. And then we got Surtain, who's a bit of a interesting one. We normally don't see corners win the award, but he's been truly locked down this season. And I don't think I'm going to go with him, but I could totally see an argument where somebody might go with him. I'm going to go with Myles Garrett. Hard to give the Browns an award since they're so bad, but Myles Garrett's one of the best players in the NFL, and he's had such a great season, leading the league in pressures, as I said before, forcing so many fumbles, making such a big impact on the game that other players on the defense side of the ball are just not making. Next up is Offensive Rookie of the Year. This one's a heated one, honestly. People are going, do I want Jaden Daniels? Do I want Bo Nix? They're both having probably borderline top 10 seasons of NFL quarterbacks. But no one's talking about Brock Bowers or Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, Brock Bowers, top 10 tight end season we've ever seen, probably the best rookie tight end season of all time. I don't see how that's not a lock for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Am I missing something? Because he's cooking this year. And I know Jaguars fans might be upset with me for not saying Brian Thomas Jr. because he has slightly more yards and more touchdowns. He plays a receiver, different position than tight end, but I'd be totally happy if he won it. That would make me so happy. I don't want a quarterback to win it because they just haven't been playing at the same level as the receivers. Brian Thomas Jr. is 5th in yards, 5th in touchdowns. He's playing like a top 8 receiver in the NFL right now. So with that being said, I don't see any reason why you'd pick a quarterback unless you're just saying quarterbacks, because quarterbacks are going to win it every year if you pick them this year, because this is not the year they should be winning it. Next for Defensive Rookie of the Year, there hasn't really been any outstanding rookies. Like Micah Parsons a few years ago had like 12 sacks. There hasn't been any rookies like that, but Quinyon Mitchell, he's a second favorite. He's been locked down as a corner. The last couple weeks he's played pretty bad, which has sort of lost him the award. So I'm going to give it to Jared Verse, who's like top 5 in pressures. Only has 4.5 sacks, but he does have 2 forced fumbles. He is missing a couple of sacks, like when he gets to the quarterback not finishing. But he's been such an impactful player for the Rams pass rush that he definitely deserves Defensive Rookie of the Year. Next is Comeback Player of the Year, which is an award after DeMar Hamlin I really haven't heard much about, which I'm grateful for. I really don't like this award. But I'm going to give it to Joe Burrow. Came back from his really bad injury last year. He's in MVP conversations, which I personally wouldn't put him there just because he's the most valuable player to a team that's not even in the playoffs right now. But he definitely fits my Comeback Player of the Year criteria as he's playing as a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. Probably second in my opinion behind Lamar. 42 touchdowns, 8 picks, 4,600 yards, second in quarterback rating. The only thing about his game I do not like is that he takes a lot of sacks. Like in that Broncos game, kept stepping up into dirty pockets and taking a bunch of unnecessary sacks. And that really hurt them, and they almost lost that game. And my coach there is going to go to Kevin O'Connell of the Vikings. He's been so good for them. Their over-under win total at the beginning of the year was like 6 wins. They crushed that with 13 right now, and next week they're playing for the number 1 seed in the NFC. Doing all this with Sam Darnold. So impressive from him. Easily one of the best coaches in the NFL. I have so much respect for him. And that's all for the official awards. However, here comes some of the good awards. First off, we got Tank Commander, Best Tank Commander. So this is the best player who's just commanding their team to tank, get the first overall pick, or get a much higher draft pick than they would have. I went with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Personally, the worst quarterback I've ever watched. The Browns are clearly just starting him because they can be like, oh, maybe he's our guy for the future, when they know he's not, and lose games. It's just perfect work by the Browns organization, which is not something you hear very often. Currently has 427 yards and 6 interceptions, 0 touchdowns, and an 18 quarterback rating. This is truly one of the worst players I've ever watched. He's averaging 3 yards per attempt, 51% completion percentage. Literally is just useless. Like, putting him out there is just losing them games, which is just what they need and just what this award is about. My next award is going to be the best player to not score a touchdown, and I went with Tutu Atwell. He has 525 yards this season and no touchdowns. It's because he's like 5'6", 130, so small, but he's able to make a lot of plays as a gadget player for the Rams, and in spurts in his career, like this year and last year at the beginning, he's just been very good when they needed somebody to step up, and I really like him as a player, and he's definitely the best player to not score a touchdown. My most improved player this season is going to be Jackson Smith-Njigba. He went from the 3rd best receiver on his team to the best, which was not something anybody expected. 600 yards to 1,200 yards and 6 touchdowns. Easily been the best option for the Seahawks, who've been one of the most highest volume passing offenses. Obviously, they haven't been super efficient with Geno Smith leading the league in interceptions, but he's been able to be that security blanket and a really good guy to rely on. And that Eagles offense is a really good situation for their next young quarterback to take the reins from Geno Smith. I have a similar award here. It's going to be the best in-season breakout. This goes to Bryce Young. Started the season, weeks 1 through 8, where he was only playing obviously half those games. Came back in week 9. 2 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 59.8% completion percentage, just terrible football. And he's went from that to 1,600 yards, 10 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions with a terrible team. Went from averaging 3 yards per carry to 7, tripling his rushing touchdowns. He's been a really good player for a bad team, but I believe if they put a little bit more around him, the Panthers could be competing for a playoff spot in 2 to 3 years. My next award is going to be the best backup, and he was a backup going into the season. I believe he was listed as their 4th-string receiver, Juwan Jennings. Nearly 1,000 yards this season, 6 touchdowns on 70 catches, has emerged as a really good player for them. Before the season, he had 200 yards last year. And he's a 27-year-old player who's just stepped up into his new role, with Ayuk tearing his ACL early in the season and Deebo Samuel looking like actual garbage. And the 3rd receiver, Ricky Pearsall, got shot, which really helped Juwan Jennings make a new opportunity for himself. I think Ricky Pearsall's healthy now, of course, but him and Juwan Jennings is really just a good duo, along with Deebo Samuel and Ayuk, hopefully coming back next year strong. My next award is the Unsung Hero Award. This is going to go to a player who's contributed a lot to a really good team, but most people don't talk about him enough. And if you guys watch my channel, you know who this is. It's Khalil Shakir, one of the best receivers in the NFL. He's 2nd in the league in run after catch, and he's 5th in EPA, expected points added, of any receiver in the NFL. This is with him having a very low volume and being Josh Allen's favorite target. Josh Allen doesn't throw to him enough, in my opinion, though. 820 yards, 4 touchdowns, making so many good plays, being the number 1 option in easily a top 3 offense in the NFL. And my last award is going to go to the most consistent player in the NFL, who unfortunately did get hurt a couple weeks ago, David Montgomery. He scored a touchdown in all but 2 healthy games he had this season. 12 touchdowns on the year, 775 yards, 4.2 per carry. Just every game making sure he makes a big impact on the game. Always turning out just like 4-yard per carry games, being the consistent running back that they need him to be. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. It helps me and the channel so much, especially if you guys liked and subscribed this video right now. That would just mean so much to me. And make sure you guys check out my other videos, and see you next time.